Welcome to Healthcare Hour with Colleen Qvist. Can you believe that I've actually had healthcare with me for nearly 4 years? It'll be 4 years in March. And sometimes I look back and I think, gee, where did the years go? From when Mongezi first approached me and said, "Hey Colleen, do you want to come do a healthcare show?" You're going like, "Oh, okay, yes, I'll do a healthcare show." And then I was thinking, what do I know about being a radio presenter? And so much has happened since then. Vuka Online Radio has actually become Vuka Online. We now vision as well. You'll have seen that it's possible to watch my show and everybody else on Vuka. It's possible to watch our show on YouTube and also on Spotify. So wherever you're wanting to see it, it's possible to actually see me talking to you and not just listen to me talking to you. Of course, you know that Healthcare Hour is all about healthcare professionals. And it's us understanding that they are people, they get tired, they get hungry. What is it that upsets them? And so, as a coach, I work with professionals. I work with healthcare professionals as well as business professionals on the other side of their title. It's about us also improving the relationship between the healthcare professional and the patient. And of course, in my other part of my world of my life, it's also about the business professional and the customer. Then what happens is we also are going to be patients at some point. We all get older. We all get those aches and creaks and groans and all sorts of things. I mean, even last week you heard my voice had disappeared. Not that I ran off to the doctor, mind you, but it is about having little conversations with myself of saying, okay, Colleen, are you burning the candle at both ends and in the middle? It's time to take things a bit easier. So that's what I did this week as far as possible. And so that's why my voice is back. Yay! Yes. Okay, so as patients, we also need to have autonomy. We need to understand what's happening in our health. We need to understand about what decisions we're making, and just to be invested in our own health, invested in the knowledge. So as you know, VUCA also, the K in VUCA stands for knowledge. As my audience, it's about how do we share knowledge? How do we impart knowledge? And of course, it's not only me imparting knowledge to you. How do you give me knowledge? How do we give each other knowledge? How do we share our knowledge? So, yes, so Vuka Online Radio is now really Vuka Online, and you'll also find us as Vuka Central. And of course, Vuka Vision is going to be part of that. But it's also, yeah, very much we're moving places, we're going places. And so what I thought would also be good for us is to look back on the year and see, who the shows have been, who my amazing guests. A lot of people say to me, but Colleen, how do you find your guests? Where do they come from? And so after the break, I'll share with you where my guests come from.
The home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
Views.
There's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
Sports.
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
And music to inspire you every day. This is Vuka Online, your inspiration radio station.
Welcome back. You're listening to Healthcare Hour with Colleen Qvist. Of course, this is on Vuka Central, and you'll be able to watch us and not only listen to me. As you know, we're also on Spotify and wherever else you download your podcasts. So, I thought it would be a good chance to look back. What is important is sometimes we're so out there, we're going to do our goals, we're going to reach things, we're going to get there. I know for me, from my show, I go on leave in the second week of December. And so often I can Just be focused on, right, where's my show for every week? What am I doing? How am I this? Because I'm very goal driven, as are many of you. But it's important as we're doing the journey towards our goal that we also take an opportunity to reflect, to see what worked, what didn't work, what could be better. And reflection is not only the power of reflection is not just only giving you to say, oh, XYZ happened. So it's not just a report of what happened. It's also about how did you feel about it? What was good about it? What could be better? What couldn't be better? If we did it again, what would we change? And so that's why there's power in reflection. And that's why in coaching we use reflection often, because it's a way of us improving. It's a way of us getting better. So as I mentioned, those guests, where do we find them? Where do I get them from? Well, I don't have a package that I order on Takealot. What happens is, like in my normal day-to-day life, I read LinkedIn, I look at headlines, I meet people, I come across topics that I feel that would be interesting. Like for instance, iontophoresis, which you heard about in the year. And it's like, oh, what's that? How does that work? Does it work? Um, and so that's where they come from. That's where they pop up. As you know, in previous years, I've also used my own lived experience of having aging parents and parents-in-law, and just sharing with you as well from my own heart how grief has impacted people, how grief has impacted me. So yes, so that's where my ideas come from. That's where my coaching, like look around the coaching world, but also look around the speaking world, look around the healthcare world, look around all the different aspects of me. I do network a lot, so I'm forever meeting fascinating people. And I've always had as one of my little things I tell myself is that no matter where I go, I attract awesome people. And so I'm always on the lookout for these awesome people. And they are at dinner. I meet them on holiday. I meet them when I am standing in a queue, when I'm at an event, when I'm networking somewhere. There's fascinating people out there. You've just got to open your eyes and your ears and your heart and let them in. So, yes, so let's look at what we have done this year, because as in our mountain climbing and our getting to December, let's look back. What have we done? So we started off in the year with a lovely lady, Britamela Mudumela, who is passionate about renal, and she's looking at how to change the renal industry. And she's very much out there, very vocal. She feels very passionate about the fact that renal often doesn't get the attention that it needs. And of course, kidneys aren't as forgiving as livers are. If you ignore your kidney for long enough and there's a problem, your kidneys eventually stop working. So she's very passionate about making sure that we have the information, that we have the education, that we make informed choices when it comes to kidneys. Then Dr. Johan Buerter came to visit us, and he is a doctor, but he is somebody who decided that he needed to change lanes in medicine. And that's what we called the show in terms of changing lanes. So from being an actual casualty doctor, he then said, okay, what else is out there? And so he's explored all different options, and he came to share with us, sometimes we do things for a while and then we decide, oh, I think that's also very important. What I've come across this week is that we can have this dream of, one day I'm going to, and then we go and do the dream. And then we've done the dream for a year, 2 years, 3 years, for however many years. And then we go, okay, I think it's time for a new dream. We can release this one. We can let it go. And that's okay. Just because we have a dream to be something or do something or go somewhere doesn't mean that we've got to keep that dream forever. Once we've realized it, once we've said, okay, is this for me? I've done it, we can release it. So after Johan, we had another fascinating lady, Candace Storm Baker, who came to speak to us about breast implants. And she shared her own lived experience with breast implants and how they made her so sick. And she really wanted those breast implants, and she fought very hard to keep them, but eventually had to let them go. And she has not chosen to replace them. She said that she would live with her breasts the size that they are, and has been very welcoming of the fact that she has returned to health since having let her breast implants be removed. She also has groups for women, for them to understand and to see that, maybe a breast implant's not for you and you need to make an informed choice. Then, of course, we hit that time of the year when our doctors are unemployed. And of course, in South Africa, all the headlines always say that we don't have enough doctors, they're leaving the country, they're doing all sorts of things. And so the CEO of SAMA came to talk to us about those unemployed doctors again and about what was being done. Of course, what made it very sad for me at the time is that our health minister said that doctors are qualified. They don't have to stay in South Africa. They can go into private or they can leave, which is very short-sighted given that we have a shortage of doctors. And of course, at that time, we also had a company coming from Ireland who were coming to look for South African doctors, coming to recruit South African doctors, because they are very sought after in the rest of the world. And so it's quite sad when doors seem to close in your own country and yet doors out of the country open, and you can't blame anyone for saying, okay, fine, off I go. Yeah, and then after that, we had Athenia Faye, who came to talk about her journey. I've watched her for lots of times. Sounds weird, like I sit there. But okay, followed her on social media, where she is a friend. Had followed her on social media and just seen how hard she's had to fight to achieve her dream of being a clinical psychologist. And yes, she's qualified now, and so a lot of doors sometimes close, and it's about, do I really want this? How hard am I willing to work for it? How many times do I need to apply? And so Athenia shared her journey, her lived journey of becoming a clinical psychologist. Then Dr. Seema Patney came all the way from the UK. Sounds like she popped into our recording studio, but no, the joy of connection online is she could stay in the UK and talk to us. She is a GP and she is also a coach and a mentor for doctors. And of course, her and I had lots in common. And so we shared lots of information, lots of observations, lots of things that make us sad in the industry and how we need to change. So Dr. Seema was a breath of fresh air. And yes, and then we moved on to Doug Reed. Doug came to talk to us about future delivery of healthcare and how we need to care together and what a difference it makes when we do care together from an access point of view, from an equity point of view. Yes, and then we had, before we go for a break, we had a lady named Sanusha Naidu Harichand, and she came to talk to us about that iontophoresis. That's what I was mentioning, that, oh, what is iontophoresis? Does it work? And that's for excessive sweating on hands and feet. And so it's iontophoresis for hydronephrosis, to use the medical term. And it means that a current is put through hands and feet, and it's a way of making sure that your body stops that excess sweating. And I have had first-hand reports from people I know directly who've said that it does work. So, okay, so now that we're reflecting and we're looking at things, let's go for a break.
How do you know the life of personal coach you're about to work with is who they say they are? How do you know if they can do the job? At the Africa Board for Coaching, Consulting and Coaching Psychology, we can tell you. So, before you share your secrets and spend your money, check with us first. Visit www.abccccp.com or call us on 012-751-7608. The ABCCP, the professional body for coaches.
Hi there, you're listening to Healthcare with Colleen Qvist. Healthcare Hour, actually, with Colleen Qvist. And of course, we are now on Vuka Central. We are not only radio, Vuka Online Radio is now housed at Vuka Central, and we are not only auditory, we're now vision as well. So looking back at the shows for the year, because it's important that in our goals that we don't only just carry on slogging up the mountain, that we do look back and see how far we've come. And as I shared in the beginning, it's, can you believe it? We're coming up to 4 years of Healthcare Hour with Colleen Qvist. So where did the time go? So many, many, many amazing, wonderful clients. And another one of those amazing clients, not clients, guests who come to talk to me, you can see my lives getting muddled up here, was Dr. Nicholas Okumu. He is from Kenya, and he's an orthopedic pioneer in Africa. So he came to share his knowledge with us, his approach to living. A very fascinating man. I do recommend that you get to know him. Then Bryony Lieber came to share with us about how she felt at the age of 50 to suddenly get a diagnosis of ADHD. And on one side, she was very grateful to hear, okay, ADHD, we know what to do with this, we can work with it. And on the other side, she was quite sad to go like, okay, she'd done 50 years not knowing what was different with her. So it was a double-edged sword there. And of course, she has done the healing now to work towards living and thriving with her diagnosis of ADHD. Okay, then Basil Adrianso, also a fascinating guy. He came to visit us and he shared very vulnerably, he shared as an entrepreneur and as a physiotherapist, how he went from having so many practices to them all being closed over COVID. And the heartache that he had with letting his people go and what he's learned from that and how he's moved on, and how he's not going to be making the same mistakes or living with the ego and arrogance that he did have before. So very open heart that Basil came to share with us. Yes, then Val Beaumont, she came to educate us on the marketing code and how we ethically need to sell medical products, how we ethically need to not be running around and sponsoring things. And yes, so she shared directly from the marketing code all the different, how do you go about promoting health products. Then Narinda Sheena came to see us, and she shared her journey of being in pain, of always being in pain. And she said she never understood what it felt like to be in pain until she was the person in pain. And so she has written a book, From Pain to Power, and just an awareness of what can you do in order to minimize or make your pain more livable with. Because, and a shout out to all of you who are in pain listening to me, it does rob the joy. It changes your life, your every single day, if every single day is faced with pain. So if you are being faced with pain, if you are living with pain, remember From Pain to Power and reach out and talk to Narinda Sheena, also from the UK. Okay, then we moved on to rather a sad topic with Sonia Smith. Sonia Smith runs a funeral home and has worked extensively with what happens if you miscarry before or have a stillbirth, if you miscarry before your gestational age of 27 weeks, so 26 weeks and less. So what happens there is that the law says that if your baby is younger than 27 weeks, that it is not a baby. And so there's no death certificate. And what Sonia discovered is that so many parents were battling with the idea of not being able to bury or cremate or have a memorial service for their baby. And so she's fought very hard to change that in South Africa and has successfully done so. So thank you, Sonia. Okay, then Dr. Anne Bickard came to visit us again. She's no stranger to the show. She is a friend, amazing lady. And she spoke to us about her role in trauma. She works in trauma or casualty or whatever you would like to call it. She's a casualty doctor. And she'd also just written One Call Away, which was her new book, which is absolutely fascinating. Do go get all her books. They make for amazing reading. They are hilarious in one side, very dry sense of humor, but are also quite sad and make you think on the other side. Okay, then we went into more pain from an endometriosis point of view. Alexandra Czech-Sikleka also came to see us. She shared her life journey with endometriosis and how she'd had endometriosis for years and years and years. And it was only as an older woman, well, she's still young, but not as a teenager anymore, where she was finally diagnosed and finally knew what was wrong with her. And she even had to change countries in order to get her diagnosis. So just very much about that you're not alone in your diagnosis and there is a solution out there, and to persist. And when we find people with like symptoms to us, it's sometimes a lot easier to get to a solution. Okay, then Vicentia Rambau, Ms. Vicentia Rambau, she came to talk to us about quality assurance in managing hospital complaints. We always read on social media about how somebody is very upset with ABC or whatever that happened in a hospital. And what often happens is that we complain on social media, but we don't tell the hospital. We don't fill in the complaints form. We don't follow whatever it is. Now, of course, hospital people don't run around reading every single spot possible where you can complain on social media. It's important, like before your loved one leaves hospital, before you leave hospital, even after you've left hospital, to fill in the complaint forms. And Vicentia was saying that in her hospital, they are very visible, they are there. Okay, then we went back to delivering babies and also sharing with how amazing it is to be part of delivering and being on the, just to be part of new life. And so Yolanda Ndala joined us. She has gone off to Saudi and she's working there and delivering babies and saying how amazing it is. Of course, not always happy, but for the most part, very rewarding. Okay, then I came along and spoke to you about headlines in healthcare. We had an overview look of what was happening, what's happening in, what was taking up our attention at that time. There was very much about, had those doctors been employed, what's happening with NHI, all different aspects of what's going on in healthcare. Okay, and one more before we go for another break. Then Nicole Patterson joined us and she spoke to us about the trauma of retrenchment, what's happening in healthcare, in our pharmaceutical companies, in some medical device companies, very fluctuating, lots of agility at the moment, and also where companies lose drugs, they lose the right to promote them, things change, they do restructuring, and so many medical reps, pharmaceutical reps have been retrenched in the last few years. And of course, in a very small industry, it's not always easy to just like walk into the next job. So if you are listening to me, please know that we are sending you much love and to know that you don't give up. There is another opportunity there for you. And if you are wanting medical reps, please reach out as well. There are many who are looking for jobs. Okay, and also as well, when you work in pharmaceutical, when you work in medical, it's not just a job, it's a career, it's a calling. And so it's even sadder for people in that it's almost losing something that you're called to do. Okay, so we can go for another break. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to people who believe in the show, who pay for adverts, who allow us to be functional. And if you are wanting to put in your own adverts, please reach out. We can put you in contact with Douglas, and Douglas can talk to you about tailor making an advertising package especially for you that will help you reach your people. But let's go for a break.
The Africa Center for Web-Based Learning is a professional development center for professionals who aim to improve their professional standing. This means that the learning programs we run are more than just academic programs. They are work-based programs that focus on leveraging your current experience as a professional to build your overall profile. A year down the line, the Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is developing into a preferred center for professional development in Pretoria, with 8 professional development faculties including accounting, teaching, entrepreneurship, as well as IT and many more. For more information, go to acwbl.org or dial +27 12 751 7608. The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning, where work is learning.
Welcome back. You are listening to Healthcare Hour with Colleen Qvist. As you know, we are Vuka Central. Vuka Online Radio has been integrated into Vuka Central. And so we're not only auditory, we're vision now as well. So hello, you can see me waving at you. Yes, it always fascinates me how we have so many people from different countries, not only South Africa. So hello to you, wherever you are listening, wherever you are watching. Welcome. I love to hear from you, and I do enjoy your messages. So going back to the shows, it makes you realize just with me going through the list and realizing, oh, we're going to fit them into 35 minutes, of just seeing how many there are. And I mean, to date, I have done 37 shows for the year. So let's jump back into that list. Okay, Dr. Nokukanya Kanyile, also a very bouncy, lovely lady. She came to talk to us about breaking the mold of the stereotypical doctor. Before, doctors were very, almost, how shall we say, very stereotypical. They're very like serious, only a doctor, and Nokukanya brings a whole very alive, very bouncy version of what it means to her, where being a doctor is part of her life. It's not all of her life. Nokukanya also has got her own very big social media following, so do look up. All right, then Sepo Ralpha, he joined because he's passionate about house calls. And like in the old days, you didn't have house calls. But what they're bringing back is because of equity and access that a lot of people can't get to a doctor. So he's looking at bringing back house calls for primary healthcare services, where you would go to the person's home. And that was in Limpopo province. Okay, Stasha Jordan, she joined us from the South African Breast Milk Reserve. It was quite fascinating to hear about breast milk. It's possible for all women to breastfeed. And some women also have excess breast milk, and it's possible to then donate that breast milk so that every baby has the right to breast milk, and every baby then can get breast milk. So quite fascinating to imagine this bank of breast milk. Mia Malan, the editor-in-chief of Bekasisa, which is a center for health journalism. She came to talk to us about how important it is for journalists to be educated, to be trained, and not to just write nonsense stories. So quite fascinating as well. And it is possible to go and be a healthcare journalist and be trained by Bekasisa. Professor Shay Walsh came to join us from America, and she was sharing with us her lived experience of a borderline personality disorder. At one point, she still is. She is very passionate about movement. At one stage, she was an aerialist with the circus, and so has brought in all aspects of her life as part of her research. Lubabalo Mnyaka, also a fascinating man who you will see lots on social media. He is busy out there making a difference, changing things. And he spoke to us about removing barriers to accessible, affordable and quality healthcare. Of course, we all know that we want equity. We want healthcare for everyone. But there is no healthcare for everyone. And the equity, the affordability, the availability is not there. And so Lubabalo is working very hard to change that. Then Louis Buckle, yes, one of those where I think, oh, how fascinating. Let me go find out more. Louis Buckle works in an area where people's medical aid claims aren't paid. And then what do you do? What redress do you have? What we don't know all the rules, all the regulations, all the different, that's small print. And so Louis and a colleague friend of his during load shedding, not during no load shedding, listen to me, during lockdown, they helped a neighbor with the neighbor's rejected claim, and they managed to get a lot of money for the neighbor. And so they now made it into a business. Okay, so that's Louis Buckle. So what you can do about a declined medical aid claim. Then Dr. Yashka Singh came to talk to us about, we have spoken so long and so often about what is wrong in healthcare, what needs to change, what should be changing, how people are trained, how tired our interns are, how tired our junior doctors are, the crazy hours they've got to work. And we were just saying, you know what, the time for talk is done. We now need to take action and not talk every single year where nothing then changes. All right, then Dr. Carol Ben. Sure, my spelling is terrible in lots of things here. Dr. Carol Ben came to talk to us about survivorship. As you know, Dr. Carol Ben works very much in an oncology space with breast cancer. And she was saying as well, it's not just about a woman or a man having breast cancer. It's also about all the other aspects of their life that they need in order to thrive, not just survive. And we can't just say, okay, well, now we've removed the cancer, so now you're fine. It's how they emotionally, how they spiritually, how they financially. So that's what she means by survivorship. Then Henning Gericke, who is a professional counselor, he came to talk to us about the mental health of medical professionals. So it's always good to get the different angles, the different perspectives of professionals working in the industry and what it is that they see. Okay, then I popped up to talk to you about coaching and mentoring. So you know that I'm a coach and a mentor. And I shared, we often talk about coaching and mentoring and people go, oh, what's that? Okay. And just I shared with you the difference between coaching and mentoring, where you would find a coach and mentor, who can have one, how expensive are they, how often, how long must you have a coach and mentor for, all those questions. So you'll find answers if you go and find the show. And I'll tell you more about that just now. Okay, then you got me for the next week as well, because something that I'd been exposed to in that week probably that made me cross, it's like, right, let's make a show on this, was just about how often we give advice to people and about, oh, come on now, you need to be strong, or this will pass, or suck it up, or come on now, you can do it. And it's not actually recognizing that that is not the advice that people need. People need to be supported in their actual reality before they're able to see, okay, what are the options? How do I move away from where I am? But just to tell people to be strong doesn't serve anyone. Okay, and then we moved on to Dr. Anna-Marie Lombard, who was quite fascinatingly telling us that we've got 7 senses and not only 5. And so she spoke about sensory intelligence and how we have sensory thresholds. And when you reach a sensory threshold, that is like maybe in the office where you're feeling exhausted all the time, or you feel like just like overstimulated, or you feel like, okay, I'll just hide under my desk today. That could also be one of your senses has reached the threshold. And so she gave us practical advice on, where do you sit in an office? What kind of work should you do? Yes, so very fascinating with Dr. Anna-Marie Lombard. Then Maureen Khan came to join us all the way from Australia, and she was talking to us about a different concept, but what I see often in my coaching clients, and that is upward bullying. Now, we all know about normal bullying. We know about where the guy at the top or the girl at the top is bullying somebody else, but it's also about where your people in a department or in a team, okay, they get together and they decide to bully. So that is often like very under the radar kind, but it's also where they gang up and then they gang up on the leader. So quite fascinating. And Maureen is a global expert on upward bullying. Then Michelle Donnelly, also a guest that we've had many, many times. She came to speak to us frankly about suicide and how we change the narrative on suicide. Yes. Okay. What's important also with suicide is that when we have lived experience, either as somebody with attempted suicide or as family of somebody who has died by suicide, it's important for us to share. Of course, understanding that for many it may have a trigger warning, but for us not to shroud it in, we don't talk about those things, because that doesn't serve anyone. Yes, and then of course this week you know that it's me. And something that I'm looking forward to next week is to speak to Peter Faneko. He is the PRO of the South African Guide Dog Association. And just to give you an example, I was speaking to Peter in the week and he was saying, you know, he was checking my details and all these kind of stories, and I could hear that he was typing. And I said to him, Peter, I can hear you typing, but how do you actually read? You know, I know how often I type something and then go back and go, oh, I wrote higgledy-piggledy stuff. Like I can see even in my list now, you know, what about all those typos? And he said, no, but Colleen, I type in Braille. So he reads it back to himself in Braille to see, did he put the A in the wrong place or the O in the wrong place, or what was he doing? So yes. So Peter's going to come and share with us about having a guide dog. He's also going to come and share with us about South African Guide Dog Association, which of course we know is not only guide dogs. So look out for that next week. And then there will be 10 shows after that. 10 shows left. Who would you like to be my guest in those 10 shows? What topics fascinate you? Look out for me. Send me a note on social media. Reach out to me. Reach out to Vuka. Let's hear what. In October, I will also be going to the Wits School of Clinical Medicine. They have got a comprehensive women's health. So I will be going to that. And I will also be speaking at the Business Side of Medicine Awards dinner. So I will be bringing you information on those two. But who else? What else? What other topics? You know, have you also said, oh, Colleen, how does that work? Let's go find out. Let me know, and we will go find out. So, having said that, I probably went over my time. Good thing I didn't have to go and look through a whole year. But yes, just to remind you that in any achievement of a goal, it's important that we look back, that we look to see how far we've come, how much we've grown. So from me, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Without you, my show would be rather silly and pointless. So thank you very much for always listening, for watching us. Yes, on that vision side too. And please remember that you're loved, you matter, and you're not alone. This is Colleen Qvist for Healthcare Hour with me. Signing out. See you next week.